How's it going, you guys? And welcome back to ConstantlyVariedFitness. And the Open is finally upon us. So they just released Open Workout 19.1, and we have a lot of information for you guys to break the workout down, get you guys prepared and ready to attack the workout with everything you've got. Now, if you haven't seen the workout yet, it is a 15-minute AMRAP of 19 wall balls at 20 pounds for guys, 14 for ladies, at the typical heights of 10 foot for guys, 9 foot for ladies, and then 19 calories on the rower. That is across the board. Because I know last year when they did the dumbbell hang clean and jerk, toes to bar in the row workout, the rowing was like 2 calories less for the girls. It is 19 for guys and girls in this workout. So, first thing, talking about, actually, I want to start before we even mention anything with this workout. This workout is definitely going to be a test of mental fortitude and your muscular endurance. So if you don't do many longer paced workouts that are very high rep, you do a lot of short sprints that are like 3 minutes or 4 minutes, that's definitely going to hinder you and how well you can do today. This workout's all about how long you can let those muscles burn and how long you want to push that muscle burn. So, first, talking about mobility. Now, there's a lot of different areas I want to focus on because when it comes to rowing, there's a lot of ways that people can get really tight areas, certain areas that nag. So we're going to have a lot of different areas there. And also with the wall ball, you have to have good hips to be able to get in a nice deep squat. It's a lot of shoulders, a lot of upper back and things like that. So we're going to make sure we're focused on a lot of different areas. But if you know there's certain areas that that we don't cover that blow up on you, like for example, the ankles. When it comes to rowing, if you have really tight ankles, it does you good to stretch your ankles out beforehand to make sure you can keep those heels down more and drive with your posterior, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. Let's say your forearms for some reason get really, really tight whenever you hold on to that rower handle for a long time. We'll talk more about that later also, but little things like that, know yourself with what is really tight. But this is a very general stretches that I would highly recommend that everyone does before they get started. So the first one being your quads and hips. You want to make sure your quads aren't tight because that's a lot of jumping from those wall balls. You also make sure your hips are nice and loose, that way you can get nice and deep in that squat, and also so your hips aren't getting too tight on that rower. So make sure you are doing something like a walking quad stretch where you pull your heel to your butt. For your hips, you can do like a long lunge. You can do like a Samson stretch where it's like you pull your knee to your chest, then you lunge out, and then you twist away. There's a lot of different quads and hip stretches out there for you guys. I highly recommend doing some dynamic stretches, something that's really short duration, that's like maybe a 2-3 second hold, alternate, you do like 10 passes of each. But let's say if you're someone that you know your quads are like rocks, your quads are always incredibly super tight, you would benefit from holding a longer, prolonged stretch. That might be a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes long, because if your muscles get really tight and they can't allow for optimal blood flow, it doesn't matter how loose or tight they get, you want to make sure that you are allowing them to move freely and have as much blood flow as possible. And some people say, oh, you don't do static stretches before you work out. If you are someone that's incredibly tight, static stretches are, in my opinion, highly suggested and recommended for before your workouts. So quads and hips for mostly those wall balls and a little bit of rowing. Hamstrings, a lot for the rower. If your hamstrings are really tight, it's going to pull on your glutes, it's going to pull on your lower back, and it's going to cause you to round more than you need to, and it's going to cause the rower to get really, really painful, especially if you've gone for really long periods of rowing, like maybe a 2K, 5K, a 10K. If you've done a marathon before, especially a lot of people got inspired to do a marathon row after the games, you are a savage, but you know how your back starts to feel after you start to row. So for me personally, my upper back gets really, we're actually going to talk about back in a little bit. My upper back gets really, really tight. A lot of people's lower backs get really, really tight. But if your hamstrings are also tight, it's only going to make that issue that much worse. So make sure you're stretching out your hamstrings. Again, something dynamic. If you feel like your hamstrings are okay, if your hamstrings are just rock hard all the time, maybe hop into like 2, 3, 4 minutes of a seated forward fold, reaching for your toes, get those hamstrings warmed up. Next, talking about thoracic and lumbar. I want you guys to hit both these areas because if you don't have good enough thoracic mobility or lumbar extension and you can't open up all the way and get a nice big pull without your lower back, your upper back screaming at you, then it's going to get really, really painful really, really quick, and that rower is going to become miserable, and you're just going to start rowing like a 500 calorie an hour pace, and it's not going to be good. So for this one, this is going to be really simple. You can lay on a foam roller with the long ways of your body, place it on your spine. You can have grab a PVC or maybe a light trainer bar and place it overhead and use that to help extend and open up your thoracic and also your lumbar as well. Not as much as your lumbar. You could probably hit that more in the seated forward fold, kind of help get ready for all that flexion you're doing with your lumbar. But for the thoracic, I highly recommend that one. Trainer bar or a PVC, lay with your body up against a foam roller on your spine, and then from there you can open up, try to keep your abs down as you come here and then pull open and try to really get your upper back loosened up before you hop on that rower. A lot of other different options you can do, a lot of twisting options, a lot of things that'll help open up your upper back. Otherwise, next, moving on to shoulders. This workout is a lot of shoulders, a lot of your front delts from all the wall balls, a lot of rear delts from pulling on the rower. So your shoulders are definitely going to get really, really tired. If you saw the open announcement and you saw Sam Briggs, she's got delts like a god, and that's probably one of the reasons why she crushed that workout, other than the fact that she has a stupid, crazy engine. So make sure your shoulders feel good. I would recommend something super simple, like just some pass-throughs. Maybe do 10 pass-throughs behind you, 10 pass-throughs forward. Say pass-through 3 times really fast. But what a lot of people are doing when they do pass-throughs is they have their hands really, really wide, and they make it really easy, and they just do 20 of them really fast. Every single time you do a pass-through back and forth, try bringing your hands in a little closer, back and forth, a little closer, to where you start getting a really, really big stretch in your shoulder, and it's not like, yeah, I kind of feel something going on. It should be where you kind of have to cringe a little bit, but not to the point where it's painful. You should feel zero pain. You just feel a really, really good stretch. So I want to make sure that's clarified. Again, PVC pass-throughs, 10 forward, 10 back. Really simple, really effective for the rower, or for your shoulders, excuse me. Now, talking about the warm-up. This workout, very low skill, very low demand or load on the body. It's not a heavy workout. It's very simplistic. There's not a lot of range of motion. You have to get squat below parallel and be able to lean forward a little bit and have decent hamstring mobility. So there's not anything that's super crazy with this workout. This is a workout that you could literally just, like, if you wanted to, just hop into the gym and just grab a rower and a wall ball and hit it. There's not something that you really have to prime yourself too much for, but obviously we're not gonna do that. So warm up today, or for this piece, is really, really simple. Get you right to it. So first, I would start with 5 minutes of steady rowing. I would try to find a pace that you think you're gonna hold on to for the workout. Maybe stay there for about 3 minutes, see how it feels. When it gets to minute 4, pick it up a little bit faster. When it gets to minute 5, you're about 90+% effort. Really try and get that heart rate up and see how it's gonna feel. After that, take about 2-3 minutes to calm down, relax, and then you're gonna do 3 rounds of 12 wall balls and 12 calories on the rower. Now, the reason it's 12 and 12 is because I don't want you to do 3 rounds of 19 and 19 and get too much volume in and kind of pre-fatigue yourself more than you need to. I just really want the blood flowing. And again, for the for the calories, I want you to kind of get a feel for how do you want to pace it, what that transition period is gonna feel like. And that's also another reason, is because I want you to get used to, as soon as you finish your wall balls, you hop in that rower and you start spinning that wheel. If you are not moving that the flywheel of the rower, that is precious time and reps wasted that you could be getting on there. So even if you literally hop on the wall balls, you get on the rower, but you're still trying to catch your breath, you're in the middle of the workout and you're dying, that's okay. Just get that wheel moving. If you're pulling a 200 calorie an hour pace, that's a lot more than you just putting your hands on your knees and standing over the rower versus getting yourself in there. So for the wall balls, you get right to the rower. That is the most important transition in my opinion. Get to that rower, start moving that wheel. Once you get off the rower, what they said was, make sure you don't do this, is that you can put the handle back in the little holster. You can unstrap your feet, but you cannot take your feet out of the foot straps until you've hit the 19 calorie mark. So you cannot kind of just do one big last pull at 18 and then hop out and walk over to your wall ball. You have to make sure your rower hits 19 before you get up off of the rower. So again, wall balls to the calories, most important transition, calories to wall balls. If you need to take a deep breath, maybe 2, that's fine. But to do well in this workout, you really have to focus on just back and forth movement, trying not to rest too long. We're gonna talk more about that transition period and different ways you can approach it at the very end for the mental game. But this is a good way to find your calorie per hour pace, what you want to sustain, gives you a feel for the wall balls and how it's going to feel on your shoulders, and then just the idea of, okay, I'm going back from one to the other. During this piece, I tell my athletes that you are moving precise, you are moving with a purpose, you are not just moving to move. Kind of going to the demonstration of Kelly, the other girl that was working out with Sam in the open announcement. What she did was, I feel like she was not moving really with a purpose. She was just in the zone and just went gun-ho and just shot out in front of Sam Briggs for the first 3 or 4 rounds, but then Sam caught in front of her, and I feel like Sam almost got like a whole 18 or more reps ahead of her. I don't know the exact amount, but it was definitely a good chunk that makes a big difference on the leaderboard. Literally 2 or 3 reps, is thousands and thousands of places in the open. So make sure you are focused on the task at hand. Your goal is to sustain. Your goal is not to go gun-ho and then die off towards the end. Why do this when you could do this and try to keep a steady progression the whole entire time? So after that, now talking about movement efficiency. Rowing, wall balls, they're not super complex movements, they're not like gymnastics, like muscle ups and handstand push-ups. There's not a lot of skill involved, but there is skill involved that's gonna make a difference. If you guys haven't seen it already, make sure you check out our last video, which is our 5 tips for the CrossFit Open. They're tips that you can literally apply today, and one of them talks about movement efficiency. So be sure to check that video out if you haven't already. It's the last video we just posted, I think literally yesterday. Yeah, because that was Wednesday, today's Thursday. Yeah, yesterday. So, movement efficiency. Again, super simple movements, but we still want to maximize those movements. So the first thing, talking about the wall balls, is anchoring your feet. A lot of people, when they're doing wall balls, they let their feet kind of just flatten out and they let the arch kind of go. That's when they start to squat on their toes. When people kind of like fumble around all over the place and they don't have a solid platform to squat down with and to explode up with. That's when the knees will start to cave in. Again, they come onto their toes. They're kind of collapsing at the bottom. Make sure whenever you are squatting, this is a really good tip just in general for you guys. Whenever you are squatting, you are not just squatting with flat, loose feet, because this is where all the power is going to be putting all your power from your legs being put into your feet, which is going to drive into the floor. So make sure you are driving those toes down, supporting that arch of your foot, so that way when you try to explode up out of that squat, you can apply all that power and you're not losing any of it in that foot. Next, talking about the swim move. This is my favorite move that I learned years ago for wall balls that helped save my shoulders tremendously, and that is as soon as you throw that ball up, you bring your hands out to the side so they come back to a hang, so there's not as much tension on them, and then you bring it back to your chin where you catch the ball and go to your next squat. So you toss it back up, swim, catch. Swim, catch. That way, again, you are not just keeping your hands up and keeping all of the blood flow out of there and causing more strain on those shoulders. Let those arms hang down here. So as soon as you throw that ball up, bring it back down, catch here. Much less taxing on the shoulders, saves a lot of energy, and trust me, when you're doing that many wall balls, any little bit will make a huge difference. Now, going to the rower. When you are rowing, it is a hinging movement. What a lot of people do is they shoot their knees up towards their chest, so their knees are literally super high, they're high up on their toes, and then they drive off from their toes. This is making it a quad heavy movement, and you don't want to be using any more quads than you need to, because A, you're doing it on wall balls, and B, your quads are not going to be as strong as your hamstrings and your glutes combined. That's why you can deadlift a lot more than you could front squat. So when it comes to the rower, when you try to keep your heels as flat as possible, it's okay if they come up slightly once you start coming back in that receiving position, but once you start working your way back down, try to keep your heels as flat as you can, and it's a hinge forward. So bring your torso in front of your hips, kind of like a deadlift, and you're gonna press your heels into the floor, extend the hips, and then lean back. So again, I have a video on rowing technique. I'll link it up above so you guys can check that out and make sure you guys are rowing as efficiently as possible, because there's, I think it's 5 tips, maybe 6, that make a huge difference and will save you guys a lot of energy on those. So don't get heavy on the toes and use those quads. Keep those heels as flat as possible, drive them down, lean back, and use those posterior muscles. Lastly is having a powerful pull and a controlled recovery. It says controlled recovery. Well, the reason is I see a lot of people, when they hop on the rower, they're just going. They're just going as fast as they can. Their stroke rate is at like 32, 33, 34, and they're not really going anywhere fast. And because they're moving so fast, it's shooting their heart rate up, but they're not really getting anywhere on the rower. It's taking them like 3 or 4 pulls to actually get a calorie. So when you're on the rower, if you saw Sam Briggs, every single time her face was cringing because she was explosive with that extension, and then tried to take a deep breath coming back in, another explosive pull. At no point did Sam look like she was just going super fast back and forth. It looked like it was very controlled. She was making sure each stroke was very powerful, and then coming back in, trying to use that as quick recovery as, you know, again, if you're just going back and forth, you're getting no rest. If you're controlling it back in, you take a whole second, that's a whole second of rest you got out of 19. If you're pulling a calorie, a pull, that's 19 seconds of rest essentially you got on that rower. So think of it that way. Don't just go nowhere fast. Make sure you are pulling hard, controlling yourself back in. So those are my 4 efficiency tips. Make sure you apply those because those are gonna make a big difference with this workout, because it would be different if, yeah, it's just 20 wall balls and you have 3 other movements that you have to go to do and you come back to the wall balls eventually. But when there's literally nowhere to hide on this workout, these little differences are gonna make a huge impact on how you do. Now, lastly, talking about mental game. So, as we mentioned at the beginning of this video, this workout is all grit, how much you want to put yourself in pain, and the first step is accepting that pain. It's going to be painful. You saw Sam Briggs halfway through, her face started to, just make all sorts of crazy faces because she was just in pain and she was just letting herself not slow down. Is knowing that this workout is going to hurt. Unlike other open workouts where there might be like, okay, I know I'm not that good at toes to bar, so I have to break up the toes to bar, so I get little bits of rest. Maybe it's like a heavy clean, so I know I'm gonna do one heavy clean, I'll set it down and I'll get a few seconds to catch my breath again. But this workout is essentially how fast do you want to push that transition from getting from one to the next, and then how hard do you want to push when you're at that movement. There is no resting halfway through calories. Technically, you could rest on wall balls if you want to, but if you want to do really well in this workout, there is no resting on wall balls. We're gonna talk more about that in just a second about how you can strategize, but this workout is accepting the pain, knowing it's gonna be very uncomfortable, and just gritting through it. It's only 15 minutes. 15 minutes is a very, very short period of time. It will eventually be over. So just know, okay, if I sandbag this workout, I'm gonna be upset with myself. I might have to redo this workout, which obviously none of us really want to do. So if you're gonna do this workout, make it count, push yourself, accept the pain. Now, talking about, there's 2 different ways that you could approach this workout, in my opinion, and this will be based off of how you mentally attack workouts. This is what for example, I brought this up to my athlete the other day. Some people hate thrusters. Some people love thrusters. People that love thrusters, usually they do really well at thrusters naturally. They're actually really good at them. But some people just love them. And even though they scale down the weight and they kind of not that great at them, because they love them, they're more willing to do bigger sets. They're more willing to rest shorter periods and get back to the bar. Whereas someone's like, oh man, I hate thrusters. Thrusters suck. They're naturally going to rest a little longer. They're going to break up a little more. So this is going to be based off of how you mentally approach workouts to maximize this strategy. If it's whatever one works for you mentally in your head, pick that one. Don't think, oh, this one sounds better on paper. However you approach your workouts is how you're going to pick these movements or this strategy. So the first one is slow on the rower. The goal would be to always go unbroken on wall balls. If you break, it is what it is. Try to keep that rest short and pick it back up. But the rower is really where the money's going to be made. How hard are you willing to push on that rower? Because some people might slow down, and even though, yeah, they're moving that wheel, they might kind of use that as their break before they get back to the wall balls. So if you want, try to find a way you can push that rower and try to keep it nice and, slow down that rower to use that to catch your breath so you can go back to the wall balls and stay unbroken. So slow calorie for unbroken wall balls. That's strategy number 1. For strategy number 2, it is a longer transition period. So let's say you go unbroken on the wall balls, you rest about 10 seconds, you take your time getting into rower, you've taken a few deep breaths, you start rowing again. You push that rower pretty hard, yeah, you're keeping a nice steady pace, you're not slowing down on that calorie per hour pace. You get off the rower, another 10 seconds, take a few deep breaths, shake it out, you get back to that ball and you do another unbroken set. So essentially, is either your 2 options are you either slow down one of these movements and try to just stay smooth and consistent but keep that transition short, or you take a longer transition period because that's going to allow you to stay unbroken and push the movements a little harder. So short break versus long break, intense movements versus slower movements, you can keep it fast with the transitions. So whichever one mentally works for you, the better. I know a lot of athletes that just like to go, and even though they're moving kind of slow, they're really good at endurance and kind of just keeping us one steady pace throughout, so they might do better at the slow row and just go boom, 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 back and forth at a steady pace, where some athletes are more powerful, they're more aggressive, so they can crush 19 wall balls, but then their heart rate gets shot up, so they have to rest a little bit. They crush 19 rowers because their legs are super strong, their back's super strong, but then again, their heart rate gets up, so they have to rest a little bit longer. So pick a strategy that might work for you, that you think is gonna work for you, not which one sounds better, which one you believe honestly is gonna help you do your best based off of your skills, your mindset, your strength, and all that stuff. So those are my tips for open workout 19.1. If you guys have any questions or comments on the movements, make sure to leave them down below and I'll get right back to you guys. I'm super excited for this workout. Again, if you haven't seen our last video with the 5 tips for the CrossFit Open that you can apply today, I highly recommend it because they're gonna make a huge difference literally on game day, and you do not want to miss out on any of those tips. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe for plenty more, and we'll see you guys next time.